right, so in this video we're going to learn how to calculate cumulative incidence. So let's start once again by reading the question, and this may seem familiar to you. In September 2009, 3,500 Temple University freshmen enrolled in a study of health behaviors that aimed to track them over 4 years of college. Okay, so hopefully this is familiar because you watched our prevalence video and you are starting to think, oh, that was the same study. So in the prevalence video, we are able to use the information collected at the first data collection point, at that one point in time, sometimes known as baseline, whatever you want to call it, that one survey in September 2009. But now we're saying that we're actually now tracking those 3,500 students over their 4 years of college and continue to collect data on them. And in this example, data from September 2012, the final year of the study, are going to be used. So let's again orient ourselves to this table. So like our prevalence question, you'll see that we have a number of questions and that the students answered yes or no to. Here our columns are a little different. So our first column is the number of students who were new events or cases. So the idea is that starting in September 2009 and then ending in September 2012, what new health events occurred during this time? And then our second column is the number of students who were at risk for each given health indicator at the beginning of college. And if you'll remember our definition of at risk, it's people who have the potential to become an event or a case of this health outcome. So in some cases, the number of students at risk is the same as our total population in the beginning. And so let's look at this example. So the number of admitted to the emergency room for an alcohol-related injury. In that case, all 3,500 of our students in our study had the potential over 4 years to be admitted to the emergency room. However, in our second example, where we're asking about unintended pregnancy, as you might imagine, only the women in the study were at risk of having an unintended pregnancy over college. So our denominator is different, is not our entire 3,500, it's only our 2,000 women. Related here, let's go down to obesity. Actually, that's the clearest example. Our denominator, our population at risk for obesity, is 2,100, not our 3,500. And the idea here is that a certain proportion of students entered college already obese. So they don't have the potential to become obese because they already are obese. So they would come out of our denominator, they're no longer at risk. All right, so now that we understand our table, let's move on to our question. The first question, what is the cumulative incidence of obesity over 4 years? So we'll start with our formula. So our cumulative incidence is our number of new cases or new events, I'm going to put events, over our number of persons, sorry this takes a while, at risk at start, I'll just put at start of observation period. All right, so our numerator and our denominator can each be obtained from our table. So our question is about obesity. We'll look at our bottom row here. Number of new events during the 4 years. We had 543 people become obese at some point during college, during our 4 years. And our denominator, number of persons at risk who are at start, is our 2,100 because, again, some of these students were already obese, so they didn't have the potential to become obese over the 4 years. So we can divide our 543 by 2,100, and we end up with 0.259. So we can express this in a few different ways. So we can express it as a percentage. 25.9% of students in our study became obese or were incident cases of obesity over 4 years. Or we could also express it as 259 per 1,000 students. So the incidence of obesity over 4 years among our study sample was 259 per 1,000 students. All right, so there's our first example of how to calculate incidence. We'll move on to our second question, which is very similar. What is the cumulative incidence of depression over 4 years? So here we're using a different health indicator. We'll again rely on our formula for cumulative incidence. So cumulative incidence, number of new events. The number of new events of depression over 4 years was 310. So 310 students who had not reported depression when we started the study reported at the end of the study that they had been diagnosed with depression. And then our denominator is 3,000. So in this case, we had determined that 3,000 students were at risk for depression. Say the 500 students from the beginning survey period were removed, perhaps because they reported that they already had depression at the time, so they could not become a new case of depression. So 310 over 3,000 is 0.103. Again, we can express this as 10.3%, or 103 per 1,000 students. So in this case, a way to express this is that the incidence of depression among our study sample over 4 years was 103 per 1,000 students, or 10.3%.